Alright, so what we're doing today is I'm going to replace the drive belt tensioner, serpentine belt tensioner, and the AC belt. Picked up both of these off Amazon, got them cheaper than get them at the parts store. Bando, I had never really heard of them, but when I started reading up on them, they're an OEM supplier for lots of different manufacturers, and these are made in USA, and it looks like a good quality belt, and it was cheap. Everybody said they're good belts, so the drive belt's fine. It's been replaced, and I don't know if the AC one has been replaced or not before, but it's bad. It's got a lot of cracking in it. But I looked at the drive belt, the main serpentine belt, and it looks fine. So, but the tensioner is squeaking, the pulley on it, and it didn't seem to have, real good tension. I could have replaced just the pulley on it, but I went ahead and I think it was 18 for the pulley or 28. I paid 28 for the tensioner, for the whole tensioner, so it was like $10 more for the whole thing. So I just went ahead and did that. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take this intake tube off, just get it out of the way. So let me go ahead and take that off. So I got that off. Just undo the clamp that goes on the throttle body and undo the clamp on the mass airflow sensor. You can just pull it off. Oh, and it's got this little push-in piece on the radiator hose. So now that we've got that out of the way, we can get a 15mm socket. I think it's 15mm. Yep. And we'll need to get it about right over here. Should be a good spot. And we will pry it up, which will unload the tensioner. So let me do that, and I can slip the belt off of the pulley. Okay, so now got the belt off and, well, out of the way. Since I'm not replacing the belt, I don't need to take it off. And as you can see, it looks good. There's no cracking or anything on it. It's a Daco, so it's been replaced. But you can see the AC one down there, and it has been replaced too, but man, it's got a lot of cracks on it. So it was probably replaced before. It's a Gates, and this is a bless me. That one's a Daco, so I'm assuming at some point the AC was replaced, the AC belt, and then later on the drive belt was replaced. So here's our tensioner with our bad pulley. And so now's a good time to check your idler. This one seems fine. So we got 3 bolts that hold it in, and what I'm going to do is go ahead and unbolt it, and just get it out of the way. I've already broken them loose. Get it out of the way. That'll give me a little more room getting down to the AC anyway, since I'm doing the AC belt. So let me get the tensioner off, and then I'll check back in with you, and we'll get the AC belt off. Alright, so got the idler, or the tensioner off, and like I said, if you wanted to, you could probably just replace the pulley. You just break that nut, that bolt loose, and replace it. But I went ahead and decided to do the whole thing because it just didn't feel like it had even tension on it. It seemed real, right where the belt was sitting, trying to do it, there just was not much tension on it, and it wouldn't even pull the belt tight. Like the belt still felt kind of loose when I put the tension back on the belt, and I had to kind of go the backwards way to put a little more tension on the belt just to get the belt tight. So it just felt like the spring inside of it was kind of worn, and I have a feeling this is the original, made in Canada. It's probably the original Delco tensioner. So, and only $10 difference. So here's I bought a Gates, and now's a good time to make sure that it's the same thing. Gates is also made in Canada. It is slightly different. It looks pretty much identical except for that one has a hole right there, which is just a casting hole. Nothing goes in there or anything. And this is a little different right here, which doesn't make a difference. But evidently Gates is not the OEM supplier, and I just dropped the bolt. So, now we got that out of the way though. Makes it easier to get to the AC tensioner, which is right down. I don't know if y'all can see that. Right there. So as you can see, it's got a square hole in it, and that's for a 3/8 ratchet. So it works good with a little extension on it. And you just come down here. Let's see. There we go. No, I'm not going to be able to use the extension. Okay, so no extension. My 3-inch extension's too long. So no extension. Let's see if we can get it on there. To get it turned just right. There it is. Alright, so that takes the tension off, and we can slip the belt off. So let me do that. I gotta have two hands. Alright, so there's our belt off. You can see it's got a bunch of crack spots. But found something else. That idler is worn out. The AC idler. Now, I don't know. It's worse than the other one was. And the pulley on it is just like worn completely down. The tensioner itself is probably okay, but you gotta take it off to get the thing off. So I'm gonna take it off. If there's not much of a price difference, I will probably just buy the whole tensioner. I had a 2000 GMC with 6.0, 2500, and it kept breaking AC belts, and it I replaced the tensioner and it stopped doing it after that. So I guess it wasn't keeping them tight enough. So I'll probably just go ahead and replace the whole tensioner, unless I'm going to look around here and see if I may have that tensioner I pulled off that 2000 GMC. If I do, I could probably swap out the the pulley with the bearing. So I'm doubtful I can find it, but if I can, I'll do that. If not, I'll go get another tensioner. Alright, so I went ahead and took the little guard off. It's only 5 bolts holding it, and with air tools it's super easy to get off. Because I wanted to go ahead and take a look, and figured it'd be easier to get to from under here and get that idler off, or tensioner off. And it is. Looks like 2 bolts that hold it. Right there and right on the other side of it. So I'm going to go ahead and unbolt that, because it's got to come off anyway, whether I replace the pulley itself or the whole idler. The whole thing has to come off to do either one. So let me go ahead and take that off, and come back to you. We got the tensioner off, 2 bolts, and pulley's okay, but the bearing in it is shot. So I couldn't find anybody that actually sold just the pulley or the the bearing and the pulley, and I couldn't find the one that I had replaced at one point. So I went ahead and just ordered one. I just got to pick it up. It was in stock, but ordered online through Advanced Auto Parts. It was like $34. AutoZone was $33. Used the 30% off coupon code and got it for like $24, something like $24 plus tax from Advanced Auto Parts after the coupon code. So pretty good deal. So I'll go pick that up and we'll get the new one put on. So I got the new tensioner, AC tensioner. Now time to put it on there. It's got 2 bolts that hold it down. And it goes right up in there. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. It's just like this. Okay. 1 bolt started. Second bolt started. These bolts are so close to the tensioner I can't get my ratchet wrench on them. I can't get a ratchet on this inner one. I'm going to use a boxed in wrench. I found it. Where did I get my boxed in wrench? Gets under my creeper. Up here. Yes. Just knock the socket in. Okay. Alright, so let me, this will take a little while, so let me get this tightened up. Alright, new tensioner's on. I've got it around the new belt around the AC compressor, and then behind the crank pulley. So what I'll do is, I can't do this one-handed, but I will put my 3/8 ratchet on there, pull it down to bring the tensioner down, and that'll slacken up the belt where I can get it around the crank pulley. You just pull it around over onto in the groove on the crank pulley. So let me do that. So the AC is done. I tensioned the belt and got it around the crank pulley, like I said, and around the AC compressor. It's all done there. Got the bolt started in the new tensioner for the drive belt. Just run these up. So I'll tighten all these up, and then we just got to put the belt back on. Tensioner on and tighten down. So now, you can barely make out the routing diagram. So we're starting at the crank pulley. It goes around the crank pulley, up to the tensioner, around the tensioner, under this idler, around the alternator, down, around, and under the power steering pump, then over the water pump, and back around the crank pulley. That's on the V8. I can't read that one, but that might look like a smog pump. That might look like a V6. I don't know. So, but that does say V8. So, let me get that done. Okay, so the belt is routed like it should be, except for I've got it over the tensioner and not under this idler. So the easiest thing to do on the tensioner to get the belt, I wrap it around everything and leave it off the idler, then release, get my 15mm and pry over the idler, the tensioner, and then I can get the belt under the idler like it's supposed to be. Grab my wrench. So once I release the tension like that, I can get it under the idler, but not one-handed. Maybe y'all can still see like that. Alright, done. Let me make sure, and that one's got a nice tension on it, unlike the original, which would not pull the belt tight unless I cranked the tensioner back tight. So we're good. So now we just put the air intake tube back on. So let me get that on. Alright, all done. Everything tightened back up. So we should be good to go. Thanks for watching.